How's it going, everyone? Today we'll be doing Java Singleton pattern. So we'll talk about what it is, why we want to use it, and then hopefully some tips to help you memorize it. Okay, so what is the Singleton pattern? So Singleton pattern is just to create one object, one instance of a class, and it's going to live throughout the application lifespan. But we're only going to create one of them. So you'll have other classes that'll use that object, but there's only ever one copy in the entire application. So why ever would we want to use this? So for specific objects, it's nice to have just one of them. For instance, like a heavy, expensive operation, we just want to have one instance of that. We won't want to have to create it over and over again because that's an expensive operation. So examples would be like a database client. So maybe you're connecting to a database, it needs credentials and things like that. And you have a long living session. That would be an instance of a singleton class. We'd want to just create one of those and then reuse it for the lifespan. Same with like a messaging client. If you're using, I don't know, SNS, SQS, RabbitMQ, things like that, we want to create just one client and reuse it throughout the application. Same with like a logger or a parser. So there's any number of different examples that way. Okay, so how can we create a singleton in Java? So if you're creating it from scratch, how can we create that? So let's head over to GitHub. Okay, so I'm over in GitHub, in this awesome open source project called Java Design Patterns, where it lists all these different design patterns and code for them as well. So in the singleton pattern directory here, singleton, there's a class called Ivory Tower, and Ivory Tower is a singleton that they've created here. And the key things here is that it uses a final class. All right, so we can't inherit from this class. And then we also cannot initialize this class from anywhere because of the private constructor, because private constructors are usually public, right? But if we make a private constructor, no other class can instantiate it, right? No one else can say Ivory Tower or new Ivory Tower, right? Because it's private. Okay, so that means only inside this class can they ever say new, and that's done right at startup, right? So we create a static final Ivory Tower instance, and this is the only instance available in the whole application, and you can get this instance through this public static method here, and it returns the instance. And then that instance is used throughout the application. Okay, so how can we memorize this and keep it in our long-term memory and use it when we're actually developing applications? So remember singleton, and it's pretty self-explanatory because it's a singleton, so it's fairly easy to remember, I think. One object in the entire application. We have a final class and we use a private constructor. There's other ways to create singletons too that you can look up, but these are kind of the basic principles. And if you're familiar with the Spring frameworks, I have a little logo here for Spring Beans. So Spring Beans, when you initialize a bean, by default is a singleton object. So it exists, just one of them throughout the whole application. And then let's see if I can point here. So logs, like a logger or database objects or maybe email client or messaging client, those can also be singletons in your application if it's suited for that, which typically it is. And if you like this video, please like or subscribe so that you get more content from me around software engineering and leadership. Thanks.